Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Prof. Fuad and friends. The group 4 is going to dissect a research paper written by Masaki Oda in 2015. The research title is The Discourses of Proper Assessment in LT. How can teachers deal with them critically? The group 4 members are Fajrul Islami, Ihsan Solihin, and me, Susan Santika. So here's today's outline. It consists of introduction, ELT assessment in Japan at a glance. So these two sections will be delivered by me, and for the standardized task, educational policy and society, will be delivered by Ka Fajri, and the last two sections, which are can do or cannot do, and conclusion, will be delivered by Ka Ihsan. The research was taken from a book entitled Developing Indigenous Models of English Language Teaching and Assessment, a collection of articles presented at the 62nd Tiflin International Conference. The book was edited by Professor Fuad Abdul Hamid, Ida Bagus Putrayatnya, and Igusti Ayugede Sosiowati. The book was published in 2015. In terms of the status and function of the chapter in the book, even though Oda portrays issues regarding alternate assessment in Japan, the situation might be relevant to other countries in Asia, including Indonesia, where English is not a primary language. The research consists of 5 points, which are the issues of assessment in LT in Japan, suggestion for LT practitioners, the roles of standardized tests, other alternative means of assessments, and the relevance of CFR to LT in Japan. For ELT assessment in Japan at a glance, EFL is taught as a subject from 7th grade, and English is mostly required by secondary schools. However, in August 2015, a basic principle for the next revision of course of study was announced by MEXT. So the course of study here is referred to the National Curriculum Guideline, and MEXT is the Ministry of Education in Japan. The proposed revision deals with English in primary school curriculum. To illustrate, here's the school system in Japan. For the first 3 years, it is kindergarten and it is optional. For the next 6 years, there is primary school, and at this stage, there is the National Assessment of Academic Ability, or NAAA, in grade 6. The exam covers maths, Japanese, and science. At this stage, English is introduced through foreign language activities and has not become a subject. So teachers at this stage have not been trained and do not have any license to conduct formal assessments. For the next 3 years, there is lower secondary school, and for the NAAA is conducted in grade 9, and the exam covers maths, Japanese, and science. For the next 3 years, there is upper secondary school. At this stage, there is an exam that is the center test, and the exam is conducted by each university. The exam covers Japanese language, foreign language, math, science, and social studies. And for this stage, from the 3 years lower secondary schools to the upper secondary schools, the exam is considered crucial by the Japanese students because they believe that if they can pass the exam, they could be in a good score, they could be enrolled in a good upper secondary school, and it will determine their future success. So what will happen if English becomes a subject at primary schools? Masaki suggests that qualified teachers will be needed, formal assessment will be necessary, performance objectives should be defined. However, there are potential problems. First, the course of study is revised almost every 10 years. So when the proposed revision is in 2015, then it would be implemented in 2020. The guideline states a list of performance objectives, but without specific section on assessment. Therefore, teachers have to make students achieve the performance objectives, but the guideline doesn't provide information on how to determine that the objectives have been achieved. and the interpretation will totally depend on individual teachers based on their personal experience. For teachers who have insufficient experience, they will rely on the dominant discourses of ELT, which do not reflect what is actually needed. And other potential problems are English exams can be given for admission purposes at private and some national lower secondary schools, and the comprehensive methods of assessment or integrative tests are developed. Many schools will focus on the result of entrance exams, regardless whether or not their ideas of teaching list match with the assessment. So at that time, the development is still deals with point tests. For the comments, there are some additional reading, and I found that the new curriculum is officially implemented from April last year, but the next 2 years have been allocated by MEXT as a period for preparation and familiarization with the new content. Most schools are already pre-running the new curriculum. However, observers, teachers, and parents are still confused regarding the number of hours, aims of classes, use of suggested study materials, and changes in the roles of instructors. Therefore, teacher training and an effective system for assessment of the students still need to be addressed, and it is in line with points from Masaki Oda. And there are new textbooks used for the 2020 curriculum. Some of the materials provide videos with actors who speak too fast to be understood by elementary school kids. Therefore, it is important to define the performance objectives to help teachers critically choose the materials and activities that are suitable. And here are the references. The next discussion will be delivered by Kak Fajri. Thank you for your attention.
Hello everybody, my name is Fajri Nur Islami. In this occasion, I would like to continue my group presentation. And in this section, we will discuss about standardized tests, educational policy, and society in Japan. The presentation will be divided into 4 parts, starting with language tests in Japan, and then the criticism, policy change and potential issue, and lastly will be my comments about this section. In the context of Japan, the language tests with the greatest impact are the entrance examination for secondary school and higher education institution, as well as various language tests administered at the end of the course at various levels, or the summative test. And for the majority of entrance examination, English is mandatory regardless of the intended major. Thus, the outcome of the English test is very important as it affects the opportunity of acceptance for the applicant. The entrance exams for most universities are administered by the National Center, and as for the secondary school, the Board of Education of each prefecture and big cities are responsible for the public school. Meanwhile, the private schools have their own exams. There have been some critics for the English tests in the entrance examinations due to the lack of sufficient justification, as well as the negative effects on the school curricula. The English examination is considered to have only been used as instrument for selecting students for school administration by creating high and low groups in terms of scores, and not to measure the students' general level of proficiency. And due to this task, many upper secondary schools curricula are also negatively affected. In order to make it possible for many students to pass the test, many upper secondary school curricula are designed to prepare students for the entrance examination over their general proficiency in English. Recently, the policy makers have started to respond to the public criticism and initiated various projects. One of them is English Education Reform Plan corresponding to globalization by Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, or MEX, in 2014. MEX recommended the use of external standardized tests such as TOEFL in place of English examinations currently used by institutions. And since this statement comes from MEX, Many institutions are likely inclined to adopt a standardized test, particularly TOEFL, which was mentioned in the policy as an example. However, there are some potential issues regarding of this policy. One of them is that the lack of careful assessment on the appropriateness of the test for admission purpose might cause a negative prospect on the school curricula. These are some of the comments for this section. First, the focus on teaching needs to shift from teaching to test to developing learners' English proficiency, including fluency and meaningful communication. Due to the assessment situation in Japan, teachers tend to teach the students with the purpose of passing tests instead of for their fluency in communication, and therefore the majority of teachers still use grammar translation method and spend about 90% of their lesson to explain English grammar in Japanese. And teachers also tend to make the students do a lot of exercise from old tests as one of the preparation for the English exams, hoping that similar question will come up during the actual exam. And this is actually quite familiar with how schools in Indonesia prepare their students before national examination while national examination was still implemented. And the second comment is that in order to have some consistency in language teaching, it is vital to discuss why Japanese people need to learn English in the first place. The policymakers and educators in Japan need to discuss or think about what really is the reason for teaching English, and is every Japanese need to be fluent in English, and if so, why? And let's say they need to be fluent in English, what kind of English do Japanese need? These questions need to be considered in order to create an English curricula that is not only able to produce students who are fluent in English, but also to create a meaningful learning experience for the students, so the students know why they are learning what they are learning and how to apply their knowledge in the real world. The third comment is that there are some issues on the use of available standardized tests as an admission test, mainly regarding the cultural context differences and how the standardized tests are not initially designed to be used as admission tests. Actually, Japan has their own standardized English test called AICAN. It is abbreviation of Jitsuyo Eigo Gino Kentei, or Test in Practical English Proficiency, and it has been the most popular standardized test for general public in Japan. And the results are given on pass or fail basis, and it is quite different, for example, with TOEIC, where the score are given in 3 digits and there is no pass or fail basis. And the tests are administered in two stages. The first stage is to test the students' vocabulary, reading and listening skill, and the second stage will test the students' speaking skills. And passing part 1 is prerequisite for taking part 2. It means that if the student failed the first stage, they cannot continue to the second stage. This is the level comparison between AICAN level and CEFR level. For example, in AICAN level, grade 5 is equal to A1 and grade 1 is equal to C1. And here we also have the max benchmark. For example, for junior high school graduates, they are expected to have a proficiency in the grade 3 level for AICAN, or equal to A1 in CEFR level. However, as of last year, or 2020, only 29.1% of junior high school graduates have AICAN grade 3 level competency. And there is also lack of validity for this standardized test. The test is considered to not able to test what it is supposed to test, which is the English proficiency of the students. And there is also imbalance of difficulty level. The reading and vocabulary difficulty is considered as too high. Meanwhile, it is too low for the listening and speaking tests. And therefore, there is a need to create a better standardized test based on the learners and society standards. And not only in Japan, there is also a need for Indonesia to make their own standardized test, which is based on our learners and our society's needs. That's all from me. Thank you for your attention. The next part will be presented by my friend.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello everyone, my name is Ihsan Solihin, and this is the last section of the presentation in this session. Before I begin, I would like to remind you that this presentation is discussing our group's understanding concerning an article entitled The Discourses of Proper Assessments in ELT. How can teachers deal with them critically? Which was written by Masaki Oda from Tamagawa University, Japan. Anyway, the two presenters before me have just discussed the development of ELT in Japan, which related to the revision of course of study or the national curriculum guideline and its potential problems, especially concerning various reforming plans in ELT and the issues of selecting or developing the proper assessments in Japan, which consequently affects the implementation of ELT in Japan. Then, the focus on this section is discussing the can-do list as the adoption of CFR in Japan, or the Japan's version of CFR. So, CEFR has been applied in and for Europe has something to do with political and educational context, which every region or country implements them differently. Japan initiated a project considering the use of CFR outside of the Europe in between August 2012 and March 2014. The result leads to the need of considering and recontextualize the CEFR for non-European user. And this is one of the findings within the project. There was a survey conducted by Masahi Negishi and Yuki Otono in 2011. Although it's not been clear how many participants or the types of particular participants that were involved within this survey, the result shows that around 80% of the participants acquiring the CEFR level A1 and A2, and around 20% they held CFR level B1 and B2. This finding indicates that there is something that needs to be fixed concerning ELT in Japan, whether the CFR that is used as the standard is too high, or maybe the participant showed the actual language competencies. And this becomes one of the issues related to ELT, its assessment, as well as the use of CFR in Japan. Then, another issue emerged in ELT in Japan, as what has been mentioned in the article, is related to the term native speakerism, which becomes the emphasis in the CFR descriptors. Although if you take a look at the CFR descriptors, you may not find any word or term that literally mentioned native speaker. However, it can be interpreted that achieving highest level, for example, level C1 or C2 in CFR, a person must possess native speaker competence, and the responsibility for successful communication is held to lie entirely with non-native speaker. The implication for this circumstance is Japan through the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, or what they call as MAXT, allows further subdivisions to be made without losing the reference to the main objective being referred to. And instead of modifying the descriptors as contextualizing the CFR in Japanese version, Japan develops can-do list which refers to the aspects that can be covered from the actual or original CFR descriptors. Now I'm showing you the picture containing the actual or the original CFR levels, which comprises basic user for the lowest level, includes level A1 and A2, continued to the independent user, comprises B1 and B2, and for the highest level is the proficient user, comprises C1 and C2. Meanwhile, I'm showing you these CFRJ levels. This J refers to Japan. It's actually the CFR levels with additional level on the lowest level, pre-basic user, with pre-A1 level. Also, the additional subdivision for basic user level and independent user level. Japan didn't add something or subdivision for the proficient user. So, as you can see here, for the basic user A1, it is added with A11, A12, A13. Meanwhile, for the A2, it has A21, level A22. Then for the independent user, it has B11 and B12 for the level B1, and for the level B2, it has B21 and B22. From this condition, I come up with some critical points. The first one, CFR relies too much on observations of learner behavior rather than the fundamental principles and findings of second language acquisition theory or foreign language for Indonesian context. The second one, CFR should not be seen as a complete solution or universal fix, but can serve as repository of ideas, although in need of additional applied linguistic work. Then the third one, in Japanese context, both CFR and CEFRJ becomes more concerned on language assessment or test rather than the classroom teaching. For sum up, in relation to the language assessment, a language assessment that conducted at school should refer to the contextualized reference that must be developed by teachers or the program administrators. And CFR can be used only as the guidance for the language level that a person has acquired, not the target of the curriculum in ELT. I think that's all for the presentation. This is the end. Thank you very much. I am signing out. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.